Welcome back to New Rockstars. We're here, folks. The finale of Agatha All Along is just days away, and we still have so many questions heading into the finale, but a lot of the doors of opportunity have closed, and there really just seem to be a few limited questions and a few forks in this road that we actually could take. But could Wanda Maximoff come back? Will we figure out what happened to Tommy? What will be the post-credit scene of this show, and how will it end? We're going to talk about that today.
Yes, this is the sneak peek, the weekly show that we bring to you about the future of fandom, specifically this week on Agatha All Along, with your hosts, Jessica Clemons and Erik Voss.
Jess, it's really good to be with you here this morning, this early morning.
Yeah, Brandon took my spot last week.
Yeah, he did. What do you think? How do you think he did?
Probably bad. Probably atrocious. It was probably horrible.
I love that you are not being like wholesome or magnanimous.
Not even like a joke that's happy. I'm like, no, he probably ruined it.
Don't get comfortable, Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get comfortable, Brandon. That's crazy as hell.
He started to like measure all the furniture and the drapes and everything.
That's
in here,
crazy that he's trying to move in. That's
get
insane.
Him out. Brandon, we loved having you. Gina, we loved having you too. But Jess, most of all, we just love having you back. And I'm really glad that you could be here for episode 7 because
a good episode.
Such a good episode.
Such a good episode. Such a great episode. Last episode was really good too. I'm actually sad that I wasn't here to talk about last week's episode with all the Billy stuff going on. But I was like, I think if I had to choose between last week's and this week, I would have chose this week.
Is there anything left over from episode 6 that that you feel, because I never really got to hear your takes on the Billy episode.
I thought it was just really fun, and I was kind of soaking in the idea that like, oh, he's been lying to us this entire time. Mm-hmm. Not lying to it, but that's the thing. He didn't like cheat us. He was genuinely like oblivious to a lot of things, but some things he just wasn't that oblivious to. My only thing that I was like also very like into was the fact that Sharon didn't really hit him with the car. Sharon like stopped him on purpose.
I was thinking like, that when I watched it, I'm like, I gotta talk to Jess about like, did Sharon actually hit him or just open her nice ass Mercedes into him?
But why did she do that if she knows Agatha is like the old crazy lady?
I don't know what she was doing there in the alleyway. Also, can we talk about her ride? Do we think it's a lease? Like, Westview's a pretty nice neighborhood.
Her husband's dead.
So what does that mean? She
Life
gets an insurance payout and she spends it on a nice Mercedes?
Well, if you don't know what you're going to do when your partner dies, how your grieving process is.
I don't fault her. You know, who knows what kind of life she had with him.
Gardening is actually pretty inexpensive the way she's doing it. So it's like, oh, I have all this income now.
Yeah.
What do I do?
And she said she was like a former member of the Westview Historical Preservation Society. So maybe she's like, I got a lot of free time. I'm just going to go for joyrides in my Benz. I don't think it was a Benz. I'm not sure exactly.
It was a nice car. It was a very nice old lady car.
I just had thoughts on it. Anything else from episodes? I mean, it's just fascinating to fathom this idea of Billy Maximoff from the Hex going into this body of this dead kid. And this poor dead kid who knows where his soul is.
And also such a crazy, just to put Lily at a bat mitzvah. To be like, there's a row of fun things that kids can do at a bat mitzvah, including the psychic. I'm like, who would invite a psychic to a bat mitzvah?
A normal, nerdy magic kid, apparently.
Yeah.
But no one else was in line to go to those things. They were all dancing.
No one saw it.
And he's like, it seemed like a kind of kid who felt bad. He's like, I begged my parents to get these tea leaf readers, these astral projector maps, and then also this clairvoyant tarot card reader, and none of my friends are hitting up those tents.
I've been to my share of bat mitzvahs, and let me tell you, there was not one single time a psychic was there. Someone that could do magic like that.
That's because you knew cool kids who had their bar mitzvahs.
That is true.
I think William was not a cool kid, it sounds like. Cool in the way we like kids.
He was really popular. He had a lot of kids. I've been to bar mitzvahs that were like, maybe like 3 people.
Really?
Yeah, I felt bad. My
God, that makes me feel so sad.
Well, if it makes you guys feel better, my godmother, godmother's also very subjective to different people. My family just calls a godmother like someone that's going to take care of me if my mom passes. She's Jewish and her kids are Jewish, and we hung out all the time. So by proxy, I hung out with their friends that were also Jewish, and then I went to all of their bat mitzvahs. So it was like 16 kids, different bat mitzvahs, but one of the kids just like didn't have that many friends, and I was like, oh, and what you have to do, and this is just one of the bar mitzvahs, you have to throw candy at them when they're coming down, because they're supposed to be like, I'm an adult, I don't need that candy. And it was like 5 of us being like,
just really trying to throw a curveball in there.
I still talk to cool. He's a good person.
Named them.
Gemma. Gemma's cool. And she's an engineer. She's fine.
Oh, she's living her best life.
No, she's doing great.
Good. All right. Well, going into the final 2 episodes, there's so much to talk about, not just from the questions that episode 7 left us with, but just the decision to put 2 episodes back to back. And so we're kind of doing some math now to figure out what those 2 episodes will be, how they will feel like 2 distinct episodes, while also serving like one kind of closure arc to the series. So figuring out what's going to happen in episode 8, figuring out what's going to happen in episode 9, and figuring out what's going to happen in the post-credit scene if there is one. Because those are like 3 different narrative agendas that Marvel really has with these shows.
I get that.
So I have a couple different like loose ends that I wrote a list of, but let's start with like what we think these episodes' titles will be, because every episode has been a quote from the Ballad of the Witch's Road. So I have like a list of like different phrases that have not been used yet. What do you think of Primal Night give us sight?
Well, I feel like that would have to be Animal, and the Salem 7 are now gone, right? Primal.
Yeah, Primal. Yeah.
Primal Night is like definitely an animal that's nocturnal.
Well, what was interesting we talked about on the break room is that like we saw 5 of the 7 die for sure. I assume all 7 are dead, but there is a possibility that the 2 that can fly, the cicadas and the crow, could have gotten out.
But you're going to give them an episode?
I don't know if that'd be interesting.
The cicada episode.
Well, the only way I could see that making sense is if one of these 2 episodes is like a Rio flashback episode that goes back to Salem, and then we could get the story of the Salemites and the Salem 7, and it's kind of like a Rio plus.
I agree. I see that,
story.
But I think there's probably better lines that are more catered for Rio than Primal Night.
Yes,
Primal's very animalistic.
I think so. We learned from Jack Schaefer that Agatha is the spirit witch. That's like her definition for what she is, regardless of the backseat that Agatha has taken in the recent episodes. Spirit as our guide is something that has not been in an episode yet.
That's true. And I could see her guiding the 2 that are left.
Yeah, I think that could make sense as an episode 9 title. There's also the To All That's Foul and Fair, or All That's Foul and Fair, if they wanted to do like a Macbeth type thing.
Oh, that's true. I was like, it's foul as in F-O-U-L.
It's F-O-U-L, yeah,
okay,
rather than animal foul.
I was like, is it animal foul? Yeah. I'm stuck on the fouls. But no, yeah, that seems like more of an Agatha one anyways, because it's her. Yeah. She is like always trying to cheat things, and then she's also trying to win this game. So it's like, are you playing good or are you playing bad? And this entire season so far, she's been playing both sides. Like sometimes it's good, most of the time it's bad. So I can see that being the Agatha episode where she's like, I want my prize.
Yeah, definitely. We got to figure out the context of that. I also, when I think foul is fair, I think of like appearances and vanity and superficiality in a way. So like foul is fair. I think of Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, and maybe that there's like some kind of deal with death that was made in the past that had to do with that. Really, I think it could just be the final 2 lines of the ballad, which is "Follow me, my friend, to glory at the end," which could be one title, but I kind of feel like that could be 8 and then 9. "Follow me, my friend," and then "to glory at the end."
I could see that, but they've been doing the 2 lines.
They often
time.
have, yeah.
They often have. I could see that being that has to be the title of the last episode at least. That line has to come in as one of the 2 episodes. That's for sure. That's got to be one of them. That is the one. That is the end. That's the song.
So to run through, we've done this before where we've looked at all the shots remaining, and since we've had that episode, a lot of those shots have been in episodes. What is still remaining, we have the Purple Morgue location where we know that Jenny and Billy Lee and Agatha E are all going to be in there together wearing kind of medical gowns.
And to be fair, at first we didn't recognize it as a morgue.
We didn't know what that was.
Well, there was nothing on the walls that showed that they were like drawers until that promotional image came out. Do you think they edited that out in the footage, or is it just like, I don't know. I need to go back and look at the footage to really see it, but I was like, I would have recalled that there are drawers in these walls.
I think it's just really something that I missed. In those early weeks, there was like a behind the scenes promo where they were talking about the set building, and there's just one quick shot where you see them in that location and a drawer is pulled out.
I think I know what scene you're talking about, but I thought that was the beginning at the morgue in her vision of the mayor or whatever. I thought it was that place. I think if I'm thinking of it correctly. I just thought it was there's too many morgues in this
Yeah.
series.
Well,
so
they
how are we
might
supposed to
be,
know?
Yeah, I think that purple morgue might be like connected
Yeah.
spiritually to whatever location Agatha was in, because we still don't know where that was in
That's
the real
true,
world.
100%.
So that's one thing that these final 2 episodes have to solve, is like what was missing from the episode 6 Billy perspective episode when he was, put in the DVD closet. Like, where did Rio and Agatha really go? If Agatha saw it as like a morgue where there was Wanda's body under a sheet, like, where was that? In their backyard? Is there like a body buried in the backyard? Like, there's a lot of questions we still have about that. Obviously, Salem flashback stuff. We've seen Rio and kind of the sometime during the Salem era. We also know that we think Alice is going to come back in some way, because there's some very quick shots in the mid-season promo of some kind of action-heavy scene that's on the road where Alice is like reaching out to save someone who's falling from a branch, I think.
We thought it was or at least I thought it was her flying on the broomstick, but I was like,
but
that shot wasn't in it.
Yeah,
at all.
I don't
That
remember
shot was
seeing that
not
shot.
at all, because I remember being like, oh, that shot never happened, I
Yeah.
guess. I was like, they might have cut it out, but that is a scene that did not show up on that broomstick, but it is Alice in that clothes.
Yeah.
So I have no idea either.
We also know that there's like a shot from the mid-season promo of just like a dark finger brushing against Alice's cheek, and she looks like healthy again. She's either sleeping or passed out, maybe dead, but she's not like emaciated and drained.
Oh, interesting.
And she's wearing her Hot Topic clothes.
Okay.
So like her form is going to come back in some way.
Okay, I didn't even,
We think that we're also going to see the Victorian era of Agatha, because we just seen her in that getup. And it may just be part of a montage, but I just found it interesting that like the Victorian era was like late 19th century, early 20th century. And she said that, there was a hint she was on the Titanic, so that's kind of the end of the Victorian era. But she might have been around the time when L. Frank Baum wrote The Wizard of Oz. There's a chance that she was also around the time when Victor Timely was at the World's Fair in Chicago. So there's a lot of interesting touchstones in MCU history that Agatha could have been involved with.
It's interesting if she was just like, I didn't want to go to Chicago.
Yeah, she's like, I knew he was there. Also, are we going to find out that she was H.H. Holmes? Or she was like friends with H.H. Holmes?
be
Like,
fine.
grab that tourist and bring him into the hotel.
Yeah, I'm going to kill everybody here. That'd be crazy. That'd be nuts. She must have been at the World. There's at least a couple witches at the World's Fair.
Oh, yeah, statistically, right? We know within a 3-mile radius they're always around. They had that detail in Loki season 2, episode 3, where they were looking at the newspaper to figure out the year and the date, and there was an advertisement placed by H.H. Holmes. Like, hey, if you want a hotel to stay in while you're in town, come over here. And it's like the fact that he would be soliciting in the newspaper as opposed to just like word of mouth, like, hey, you need a place to stay tonight?
He wanted to get
He
caught.
wanted everybody to come to
He
his
was
hotel.
like, everybody come here and die of fun. And then everyone did die.
If Agatha was just like the receptionist at this hotel, like,
That'd be fun.
We have room 17 open. Oh
That'd be so
God,
fun.
could you imagine? We also the Victorian era stuff. In general, I think we just need to know Rio's backstory. I think
100%.
episode 8 feels like it's going
It has to be.
all answers coming about Rio.
Yeah, I think that's the last person to, the last person. When I say that, I mean like she's the only one that we haven't even like talked to more than like a minute.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's episode 8 has to be her episode, and then 9 will be the cumulative of everybody coming back together kind of episode.
The way things have been structured so far is that we generally have like a lot of stuff on the road and just conversations between different characters on the road, and then maybe sometimes the setup of where they're going next. But generally, there's just like one thing that's not on the road. And so last episode, right, we had everything in the castle, but we also had everything from Lilia's perspective, like in her flashbacks to the Maestra, to the tunnels, to where the train station was. So we have like a couple different setups. So I'm trying to like apply that to episode 8 and 9, like how much they can fit in a single episode.
That's true. That's the plus side is like there is a lot of stuff I'm missing, but I don't think it's too much. There's some shows where I'm like, I don't know how they're gonna squeeze this in. Umbrella Academy, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna squeeze all this in the finale, and they tried. But this, I'm like, there's not that much that you need to squeeze in. We just need to figure out where it's ending. So I've been trying to figure out like, how are they going to piece this together? But if I do open that episode and it is 30 minutes long, the first one, I'll be skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, how long do we think these are going to be?
It needs to be, the first one needs to be 48. I want it to be 48 minutes. And then the last episode, you can still make it another 40-minute episode.
Yeah, I kind of feel like episode 8 needs to be longer than episode 9. Yep. Because when you get to episode 9, you just need the fireworks and you need the resolution and you don't need a lot of time to answer questions. But episode 8, the penultimate episode, is the one that, with Agatha or with WandaVision, that was the episode that answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, exactly. That answered every question. That was the flashback. That was Agatha taking her into her mind.
The memory journey.
Now, if you are into backstabbing, faction building, and double crossing, it can be tough to get your fix day to day. Unless, of course, you play Game of Thrones Legends. Game of Thrones Legends is a match 3 RPG featuring epic team-based player versus environment and player versus player battles with collectibles and upgradable champions. The battles are such a satisfying mix of matching puzzles, combos, and the special abilities each character has. It's one of those games where you get in the zone. It's super fun to mix and match allies and equip iconic weapons from the show to make your teams even stronger. You can take on other players, which is super fun. I'm building grudges that will entangle my lineage for generations to come, and it is so fun. Want to check it out yourself? Secure your legacy. Download Game of Thrones Legends by clicking the link in the description or scan the QR code to get 50 gold, 3,000 food, and a daily summon token to start your journey.
Yeah, what was your favorite episode of WandaVision? Just a side note,
that's a hard question. Mainly because the show came out so long ago.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to remember. It wasn't the second to last episode. I loved the finale for the sadness, but as an episode, I wasn't oh, this is insane. Mm-hmm. Episode 7 of Agatha All Along is my favorite episode.
For sure, this season.
Technically and beautifully written, and it's Patti LuPone, and she acted her ass off for it.
So good in it.
So good in it. I rewatched it for a third time. I loved it. I'm trying to figure out that equivalent with WandaVision, and I can't really think of one episode that got me in all 3 categories.
Episode 7 of WandaVision was the Agatha episode, or at least it ended
the reveal
with Agatha All Along, which was probably the peak enjoyment I had. But the episode as it was a Modern Family type vibe, and a lot of it was Vision and Darcy trying to make their way back.
That was
to the
a good
town.
episode. That was a really good episode.
It was very good.
That was a good episode. I think that would probably be my second, because I just remember that I really like the Brady Bunch episode with Monica being oh, I'm finally coming to. And Wanda, you are literally doing a bad thing. And Wanda was get out of my house, shot her through 12
That
walls.
was the in some ways scariest and first time all of us were activated by the mystery and potential darkness of the show.
Yeah, I think that was, that might have been just my favorite part, because it was the reveal of oh, maybe she is going crazy. I was oh, maybe she is mad. I was oh no, I was rooting for her. Yeah. We were all rooting for you, Wanda.
We were all rooting.
But
I really loved episode 5 of WandaVision, because that was the Growing Pains Full House episode where the boys are aging up, where Sparky dies.
Oh, Sparky dies.
And then it ends with Pietro showing up through the door, which was such a crazy
I thought that was
moment.
that's funny. Oh wait, okay, so the next episode was the Malcolm in the Middle one.
Yeah, the Halloween episode, which is also very good, very mysterious. But episode 5 felt like everyone was kind of paying attention now to what WandaVision was trying to do in terms of the sitcom parody, but also had a ton of MCU implications, multiverse implications, and just the credits rolling while they were having that argument.
Yeah,
felt
that
too
is
many cooks in the creepiest way.
I loved it.
It felt really unsettling.
That was a good episode. That was a good episode. But these are again pieces where I'm picking chunks, not the full episode. I'm oh yeah, that finale, that ending was perfect, but I can't remember the beginning.
Yeah.
Again, but that also could be because the show was so long ago that I'm I barely remember the kooky moments, the magic show. I barely remember that.
From episode 2.
For episode 2, I barely remember those parts. You had to remind me that it was the Full House episode or the Modern Family episode, and I went, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Where they're talking to the camera and she's tired as hell the entire time.
Has that creepy moment in the Modern Family one where you hear Agatha's voice and they pitch down Catherine Hahn's voice to make it sound like it was a different woman.
Is this one the director?
Yeah, and then she's you didn't do what? And it's just that moment until we got to 12 minutes later, I was scared for those 12 minutes. I'm like, whose voice was that?
That's so funny. I didn't even think about that. They had to pitch that so far down to make it not Catherine Hahn.
I totally didn't hear it as Catherine Hahn.
That's so funny.
The reason I'm, bringing us back to WandaVision is obviously Jack Schaefer wrote both shows, and there's been a lot of like structural parallels to the season. They both have 9 episodes, and there tends to be like similar reveals, but what makes them different is that Jack Schaefer, I think, was a great writer for both of these shows, but seemed to have learned some lessons about the Marvel audience in between and how to manage expectations. And I think she's done a much better job of it in Agatha.
100%.
You may prefer WandaVision as a show. We don't really know how Agatha's going to stick the landing.
That's true.
But so far, it seems like Agatha is more confident as a series. It knows what it wants to do. It's paying off its reveals. There's fewer loose ends so far. So far, most of the loose ends, it feels like 80% of them are being tied up at this point.
To be fair, I will say Agatha's a lot easier when you have like 8 casts, period, and you stick to one setting.
Yes.
I'm like, WandaVision was very hard because there's too many people. And then also it was the very first Disney Plus or like Marvel series. So I think it was like a lot to already carry. But like, like 5 locations, different people, different times. We were all confused. Like the fact that I always forget that, I don't always forget this, but the fact is like, okay, we have Darcy in the van. We have, and outside of Westview, and then we have the people in Westview, and then we also have that, the entire, what was it's not Shield, and it wasn't, what was the
sword the camp?
And then we had that building that had the actual Vision body. So I was like, we had 3 locations that we were constantly going around with 8 different people doing different things all the time, and I was like, this is hard to keep track of.
It felt like a small Avengers movie.
It was. It did.
And I think that's what a lot of people were, that was part of the Disney Plus Marvel experiment, is like the experience you've had watching the movies, it can exist as a show. Let's try this out. But I think what Agatha as a series has been really smart about is like limiting the budget, as you said, and like it's not just each of these episodes went through a different studio backlot set dressing. It was multiple locations within that backlot. It was the home set. It was sometimes Agatha's home set. It was the outdoor space. It was like if they went to the town square, they had to like decorate that and all these extras. And here it's a limited cast, and they're all literally in one room.
Yeah. It's so nice. Yeah. And that's why I think they get that time and freedom to like play with the camera and play with all the technical parts. Because I'm like, especially that last episode, I'm like, you're just in one giant castle room.
Yeah.
How are you going to make it look great? How is it going to like not look so flat? And they're like, well, we're just going to keep going with this camera doing crazy angles and different cuts. And it a lot easier. But she did learn. I feel like she did learn. And she also gets to, Jack Schaefer gets to have more control with Agatha All Along than I think she did with WandaVision. Because again, WandaVision was the first MCU Disney Plus series. So I'm sure it had a lot of people like watching over it and hands. And then they were like, oh, we trust her. It's fine.
Yeah, there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen for WandaVision. Kevin Feige, this was like the first one. So he was there. A lot of it was Victoria Alonso and Mary Lavanos. Now I believe there's only one executive who Jack Schaefer has to report to.
I think it's just Mary.
Yeah, obviously Victoria Alonso no longer at the studio.
She's gone.
So I think there were those. You also had Matt Shakman, who was bringing his vision to it. Obviously a great director, but now it's like Jack Schaefer is, I think, directing some of the episodes.
Yeah, she is. She didn't direct all the episodes.
Not all of them, yeah. But I think it really is truly the way TV shows work, which is the showrunner, the head writer is making the calls and then assigns a director to it. Whereas the way they did WandaVision was it was like kind of Matt Shakman directing it and kind of working in tandem with Jack Schaefer. Now this is more Jack Schaefer's vision.
It's more Jack Schaefer. And it's not even like, it's not continuity. It's something else that it's like, oh yeah, it makes it easier when it's the showrunner choosing these things because they also work very closely with these directors already. They already have probably a very good rapport. I'm not saying that her and Matt Shakman don't, but I'm like, yeah, Matt Shakman's still Matt Shakman. He's done so much directing in television that he's probably like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm going to do it this way. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. But we were also thinking maybe you could do it this way. So I'm like, I love Jack Schaefer having that full control and also getting to direct probably majority of these episodes.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why it's felt so coherent. Also just the decisions she made and the things she said no to. And I think that's often the hardest thing when you're trying to manage a narrative experience is what you close the door to. And the fact that like she is not bringing in any kind of like outside Avengers lore. It really is just a story about witches. It feels like she's doing a Marvel version of Charmed or a Marvel version of The Craft. And that's all she's sticking to. The only people who are in this world are witches and aspiring witches. Yeah. And people that the witches have affected.
Yeah. I think this makes a good Marvel television show, but it would also be a great Marvel spotlight.
Yeah.
It would have been. It's not really an origin for Agatha, at least. It's an origin for. I would say it's kind of an origin for Wiccan. I would, because we're getting his flashbacks. But I'm like, this is what the Marvel the Marvel Spotlight should have been.
Mm-hmm.
This makes sense. It's not. You don't have to do too much homework. I think a lot of my friends that watch the show haven't watched WandaVision. They kept texting me like, should I care? Like, where's Wanda? And I was like, she's not gonna show up. I don't think she's gonna show up. I was like, you don't need to look at WandaVision. You can just watch this show and enjoy it if you want. And I was like, this is a show that you don't you don't need a lot of homework. You can just show up to and enjoy it, and it's Halloween time.
Yeah.
Easy. And then you can go forward, and you can bring that knowledge if you want to. You can bring the Lily has been living for 5 centuries to another breakdowns. Like if we meet a Mephisto eventually, you can be like, oh, he probably has encountered Lilia at least once.
Yeah, probably.
Like that's great to have, but you don't need it.
No,
you don't need that knowledge.
And I think what I love about the show is this, I think, is providing a model for how Marvel should produce shows going forward.
Yeah.
I've seen some comments of people saying, oh, up until this episode, it felt pretty repetitive. And I'm like, it's a TV show, my friend. It's supposed to be a bit repetitive structurally because that's how you develop a rhythm with your viewers and they know what to expect, and then you can kind of subvert those expectations in different ways. Yeah. TV shows should not be a 6-hour movie broken up into chunks. Yeah. TV shows should be telling their own miniature arcs focused on specific characters and specific locations that you're trying to communicate a specific theme by that episode. And I think Marvel is now starting to figure that out. As much as we love Loki was not a TV show.
No,
it was more of a mini series.
It was a mini series.
And
it
Agatha,
was a 2-season mini series.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just the fact that it worked at all is anomalistic.
Yeah, I think so
because
too.
Every other attempt that Marvel has made to do that has felt incomplete.
Yeah, I don't think you should look at Loki as like not in a bad way, but like be like, oh, I can like inspiration to what you're doing as a project, because I'm like, I don't know how it did it. Yeah. I think kind of like just. I don't know. I don't want to say they slipped, tripped, fell into it, but it is a mini series that they did 2 seasons of. It wasn't like a TV show at all.
Yeah, Loki worked because Kate Herron knew what she wanted out of it. I think she just had a strong take on it and a strong group of writers between Eric Martin and Michael Waldron, Benson and Moorhead. It took over as showrunners and understood that vision and just knew how to execute it on. But every other time they brought in a great TV writer to produce a show or a great TV director, it hasn't worked as well. They've had great moments in shows like Moon Knight, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Miss Marvel, but cohesively as a series, there were just missing elements.
We don't work behind the scenes, but I would not be surprised if those were like, if it took Agatha All Along for them to be like, oh, I guess we don't have to babysit these people. Yeah. Like, we don't need to stand so close. I will say a lot of what happens with, and you guys probably know this, I don't even know why I'm echoing this, but it is like, you see what happens when you just trust your showrunners and directors and you don't stand by and micromanage every little part of the production. Because it's also like your job, like I'm just going to use Kevin Feige as an example. Your job is not to write the script and your job is not to direct the episodes. But when you have your hands and everybody else's hands in that pot, it kind of just ruins what we had. And so I'm like, oh, I hope with Agatha All Along, they're going to be like, oh, we could just step back. I feel like even with Moon Knight, people were like, there was like 12 people in that room at all times. The amount of writers and people that were like just always there, I was like, we need to let these people go. Like, we need to let them fly away, because also this is a way that we're going to get people to actually watch more new MCU stuff is by doing things like Agatha All Along. Like, that's going to encourage a new crowd and like just keep some of the old ones. It'll be fine.
I think what helps with Agatha All Along is the fact that Jack Schaefer and Catherine Hahn created that version of Agatha Harkness in WandaVision. True. So she had a clear vision of what she wanted this character to be and where it could go, and obviously was steeped in the TV media history that you would need to be to do that project. In most other instances, it's Kevin Feige and the Marvel leadership saying, we want to do a series around this character. Let's take a bunch of pitches from different people.
That's true.
And then just pick the one that is cheapest and the one that we like the best. And that's literally how every other show has worked. And it worked for Loki. Thank God it worked for Loki. But pretty much every other show, and I'm not knocking every other Marvel show, I'm just saying there's been something missing. It's because there's just a bit of a misalignment between how good of a TV writer who is attached to it and what Marvel Studios envision for it.
Does that speak to the character, or does that speak to the writer if they can't keep... You mentioned how like... Jack Schaefer did create Agatha in the MCU, so it's like, oh yeah, she knows what we want from it. But in Multiverse of Madness, we got a completely different Wanda because it was a different group of people working on it. Yeah. But Loki does that speak to the character that he's just so easily recreatable? That we can write him anytime. Different writers can grab a Loki project and be able to write Loki. Because I'm like, Wanda, I will say Wanda feels more harder to write for than Loki does. Because at least Loki stays chaotic and you can build off that chaotic. You can still give him chaotic neutral or chaotic helpful. But Wanda was just like a mother that was losing everything. And I'm like, I don't think people know how to write that.
Yeah. Well, I think male writers often don't know how to write that.
That's true.
But I think with Loki, what helped was the fact that the character was killed in Infinity War. And there was already a whole journey for that character with some great writing at times. Yeah. And they could afford to reinvent the character in certain ways. And I think Tom Hiddleston is just such a good actor that anything that was a little confusing, he could kind of just have some fun choices made with how dastardly or mischievous he played that with, but also just they came into that project with just a strong arc for Loki's sense of identity. They were just asking very clear questions about what's the point of existence, and how does one find a new story, and who is really in control of that story.
Yeah, that's true. Because I will say, after maybe Thor: The Dark World, Loki played a good 2 movies as just, I'm gonna be a weasel, I'm just gonna be as sneaky and cute as possible. And then all of a sudden it was like, what is life? Who am I? And I was like, this kind of changed 360. I liked a jump like this, but I would have liked a little more nuance to how quick it was. I didn't need it in it jumped immediately. It went from Thor Ragnarok Loki to Loki season 1, where he's an actual brilliant mind. And I was like, this was very quick that we went from this swiper stop swiping Loki in Thor Ragnarok was just that's all he was.
You're right.
In Thor, it was every appearance that we saw of him after the Dark World. I'm only giving the Dark World a little leeway because I'm he was just mean in it, but it was just a comedic relief.
For sure. I mean, he was in the first 2 films, from what Kenneth Branagh envisioned for Thor, what Joss Whedon created for Avengers, that was just a very clear, straightforward villain that
just a meme.
Tom Hiddleston brought some Shakespearean weight to it, but overall it was largely comedic, and just how fun it was to see him getting smashed around by Hulk. But really his acting moments was the moment with Robert Downey Jr. in the penthouse bar, the moment with Thor when they were in the park. Or in the forest, rather, the Shakespeare in the Park moment.
Shakespeare in the Park.
But other than that, it wasn't. And then obviously with Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff when he was in Containment, that was a good Loki moment.
I do think you're right when it's Tom Hiddleston is just such a good actor.
Yeah, he's good.
That he can make it work. Not saying that Caitlin Olsen isn't. I think Caitlin Olsen was given a crazy ass script.
Elizabeth Olsen. Caitlin Olsen.
Oh my god! And I keep doing this. I keep saying Caitlin. I'll say even Mary Kate and Elizabeth, or Mary Kate and whatever. Ashley. Before I will say Elizabeth Olsen. There's too many Olsens in Hollywood.
Too many Olsens.
Period.
Yeah.
It's the scripts that she's given, and it's wow, this is chaotic as hell. How am I supposed to be the same Wanda that people saw me last time, and I can't? I don't know. Maybe it's just hard to write for women.
I think it is, and it takes great women and great writers. I don't know if Jack Schaefer's a great woman. I think she's a great writer. I don't know her personally, so I don't mean to say she's a great woman. She's not, Michelle Obama. I don't know.
A great woman at writing. A great woman in writers. I think she would, and that's why I'm very excited if she is actually going to be doing this Wanda movie that's going to be coming.
I think at this point
she will eat that up.
Unless the final 2 episodes completely shit the bed. Jack Schaefer is the only one who should write / direct a Scarlet Witch movie.
She's and I think she's shown herself too.
Yeah, she's proven herself.
Too many times she has proven herself. As long as it doesn't shit the bed in the last 2 episodes.
As long as it
last 2 episodes is enough room to shit the bed. That's why I'm nervous, but I don't think she would. Even the clumsy episode, if there is a clumsy episode to people, wasn't as clumsy. It didn't destroy me. It wasn't me being I don't know if I like this series. I like the series from the start. So I'm you have to do something crazy for it to be bad for me. You would have to bring in Sacha Baron Cohen's Mephisto.
Right. Yeah, I don't think Mephisto would kill it, especially if it's in the post-credit scene. But if he shows up in episode 8 as involved in this story,
that's what I'm saying.
It's going to feel bad.
If there is a women coven during the Salem witch trials, and for some reason Sacha Baron Cohen's just a part of this coven, I will be mad.
A lot of people. He showed up as Borat on late night shows this week, and just
has he?
He did, and so I'm like.
I'm so mad.
Post-credit scene?
I'm
Hopefully
so mad.
no more than a post-credit scene.
So mad. There's nothing else he's gonna be in. There's absolutely nothing else he's gonna be in right now.
I would love I wouldn't mind a post-credit scene cameo.
Post-credit's fine. Post-credit's fine.
More than that,
there is no room for him to show up.
Yeah, there's too much.
Unless for some reason he's one of the dead bodies in the morgue. Like that.
Oh, just as a cameo?
That would be fine. But I can't have
like in
him.
Saw, like he's actually alive. He's just rises up like Michael Myers in the background. That'd be pretty wild. So I think what we're kind of getting at here. Do we think the morgue, that purple morgue with Jen, is that episode 8 or is that episode 9?
That has to be episode 9, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like such a cumulative. We get the tower card. This seems like it could be the tower. And it's like that scene in the teaser trailer of all the sparks flying feels like they're breaking that room open. They're exploding that room. So I'm like, it has to be the moment, right? It has to be the moment. The climax is exploding that room of dead bodies.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the structure of the series so far has been, we got the episode 5 Agatha trial in the sleepover, followed by, and that episode ended with the Billy reveal. So then we get a Billy flashback episode with no trial in it. Then we go back to the trial structure with Lilia's trial in the castle, ending with a Rio death reveal. So I think we're going to go back to a flashback episode with death, and we're going to see everything from the Salem ages, but no trial in episode 8. And then episode 9 will be the trial, and that trial will end with however they get out, spilling out into this final battle in the backyard. I want my prize.
I want my prize. If this is Rio's morgue, there must be something that they do to Rio at the end of episode 8 that makes her not intervene at them going through her dead bodies.
Yeah, so do we think
if it's her morgue.
Is she in the room with them or not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And also, it's like, because I think now, in this, I could be completely wrong, but I like the idea of her now just being like, yeah, I'm Death. And I'm also kind of a villain, and I just want my bodies. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna let you guys have the bodies. I'm not gonna help you. I want my bodies. So you're not coming into my room, my morgue, and taking my bodies away from me.
So Jessica's getting at her theory that, like, this morgue is all of the bodies that Rio has claimed, or the souls that Rio has claimed over. I mean, you would think there'd be billions of them.
Well, I think there's more than one.
But maybe
room.
There's a Bruce Almighty drawer, and it just goes.
Yes, yeah, basically, that'd be a bunch of dead bodies, a bunch of toes. But no, I think but I do think there's more than one room. It'll be like the hospital in Moon Knight. Not essentially the hospital, but you know how there's different rooms. There was a million different rooms.
Yeah.
I think it's like if she has an alphabetical order like system, it's like, oh, here's W through Z, and it's like this room full of a bunch of dead bodies too.
Ooh, I picture it like in Crash Bandicoot 2, how you go down to the different warp levels, and then there's just like, it's a big cylinder column, and then it just goes down. I love that. And then there's just billions of bodies.
I love that. There's also the theory online, though. I could be wrong. I love the idea of like, when we see Death, like the Grim Reaper, there's so many different like ways that people see it and interpret it, and I like that Our Death by Aubrey Plaza has like a morgue of bodies. Like it's just like, it's color coded, it's business, and I'm like, this is very funny. I'm like, this is actually a very funny little gag. But some people have been like, oh, these might just be all of Agatha's bodies. Like not like literally, but like how they're playing it out on the Witch's Road.
I like that because that also would suggest, I think all the people Agatha has killed directly through her action could fill that room.
Yes, absolutely.
The Salemites, the different eras of covens that she's killed, and then Sharon and Alice. And yeah, I think collectively it'd be somewhere about 60, maybe, something like that.
And it would be, I like that, like, poeticness is like they're dressed just like the dead bodies. So it's like, she's going to kill y'all too.
Right.
It's like, you're going to be next in here. Like, just so you know.
That's such a cool take. So I feel like that could actually be underneath the ground of Agatha's backyard, because we see that cave in and a bunch of earth and soil and rocks fall down. They are able to get out, and then they come out, and then maybe fun. Jen, when she's clawing her way out of the grass, could be in the front yard.
Yep.
And so this is all underneath the house.
I like that. The
idea that this could end with a sort of a Witch's Road hellmouth beneath the town of Westview is just very fun to me.
I like that. And yeah, I would see that. I could see that, because I've been holding on to like how Jennifer Kale is clawing out of that ground for a very long time, and that's like, that'll be the moment. And then there will just be a hellmouth in Westview, which, not trying to be this person, Westview is not the best right now anyways. So it's like already kind of a hell.
Let it go.
Yeah,
Just
honestly,
move to those other towns.
honestly,
Move to Trenton. Move to Springfield. Yeah.
Go to Eastview.
Yeah.
They're less scared, I guess. It's like I'm personally like, if I was caught in a witch hex, the last place I'm gonna stay is in the city where it happened.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move so far away, and then she's gonna do it again in New Jersey. Like she's gonna do it again in Arkansas, where I moved.
That Herb/John is still next door with flowers, trying to make it work. What is in this house, John, that you can't move? John's got bodies buried in the basement where he's like, I can't move.
There should be, and this is which probably doesn't exist in this world, because why would it? They need to have like insurance on these homes from superheroes, and I'm like, but watch your insurance be like, we don't cover hexes.
Yeah, we're not covering. Yeah,
a witch, a witch. No, we don't do that. We thought someone smashed through your house. Like that we cover. If Hulk falls from another plane and lands on your house, that's a different story. But like witches, nah, that's not even real.
So if the first portal down to the Witch's Road was in Agatha's basement, does that mean we're gonna go in a big circle if it all comes back out of Agatha's backyard?
That'd be nice. I like the idea that it was intentional, but I doubt it is. I think it's just like divine to come back up into Agatha's house, full circle moment.
One shot that we have not seen that we put it out in past videos is that shot of Billy with the pentagram on, it looks like the basement of Agatha's house where the door first opened up. I thought we were going to see that in Billy's flashback episode.
I can't remember that.
Where he like is illuminating it blue. We have not seen that yet. And either we're going to go back to the past, or that is a moment that is yet to come. And I am fascinated.
I don't remember that scene.
It's it's from the trailer, and you just see it's an overhead shot, and there's a blue pentagram on the floor of the basement. And he's just like looking up, and that was an early trailer, and I'm like, oh, he's Wiccan. He's got to be Wiccan. Then if we see that,
no, he's just teen. He's just teen doing a seance. That works perfectly. Yeah, that makes sense. It also makes sense if like the door closes and he has to try to open it up himself to get them back out.
Oh, okay.
But also, I like the idea like the pentagram. He's calling someone bad. Not saying that all pentagrams lead to something bad, but I'm like, if you're calling in a pentagram, you're calling someone from like hell or something.
I don't want to go down that road, Jess.
I know.
I don't want to go down that road. It could just be like dark magic and sorcery.
That's true, but it's also like we had to do ruins to like we had the symbols for the text. I'm also going through the logic of what is in the MCU currently, not going off of like real world magic. So I'm like, okay, so we already saw the runes create like hexes around the world, like spiritual, right? And I'm like, but that symbol is a lot different, and we haven't seen it a lot in the MCU. So he must be calling someone like death or reviving someone.
It's shown up like on his sweater. It's shown up in the three upper parts of the Three of Pentacles card, or that symbol that was on the eviction notice of the company that she recognizes.
Yeah, I saw the
pentacles. You see
pentacles.
stars in there. There are pentagram type stars in there. So it's just like shown up as decoration, but we haven't seen it used so overtly. She
uses the bell at the very first episode to open the hole, to open the road to the hole, the hole to the road. Jesus, she does hit that bell, and that bell has a bunch of like gargoyle, like demonic signs on it. So I'm wondering maybe it is just as simple as that. It's like, it's not spiritually bad. I just don't really have the best times with pentagrams or the idea of it. So I'm like, who is he calling? Baphomet? I said, who's he calling? Baphomet? And what is it? Madison comes out of there.
Couldn't you have drawn just like a nice crescent moon with a happy face? That's why I'm like,
there's something specific about drawing a pentagram. He could have drawn anything. Madison
can show up as a cameo in episode 8 or 9, and I have no problem.
What if that's the post-credits?
I'm down for that. Oh my God.
What if that is the post-credits scene, and she's like, okay, let me lead you to him.
I talked to Jake. He's ready to take visitors.
She's now like the front desk. She's just like, oh, come here.
She's like, I lost all the keys.
She's drunk still drunk. Oh no, where did the keys go? I'm going home.
She can never try to just sober up for a day. She's got to keep doing that hair of the dog because she's gonna have the worst hangover of her life the moment she stops.
I follow that actress online. She's a great sketch comedian from Groundlings, and she has not shown 1 ounce that she is gonna be in this show, but she loves Madison. And I'm like, because I've been following.
It's because she drank that ounce.
That's because she drank.
Yeah, this actress is super, super funny.
She actually drank a half gal before she showed up, but she's so funny. But I've been hovering over her account to see if there's any little inkling.
Thank you for doing that research, Jess.
I
Good thinking.
I just want a little like that.
Give me a sign.
If I was Jack Schaefer, I would write something stupid. Like it would be like one of the names on the list of people that are dead would be Madison with 2 N's.
How do you think Jack Schaefer feels about She-Hulk?
I'm sure she probably watched it. Does she have any? Because she didn't write for Rick and Morty. There's been 3 writers for Rick and Morty on MCU things now, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, some of them no longer. Jeff.
Oh yeah, Jeff is
gone.
yeah, and then I don't think Jessica Gal's coming back, but she still did.
And Mike Waldron is no longer on Secret Wars.
Yeah, so. But I'm like, if they know them, if they met through Rick and Morty, they definitely know of each other. Jack Schaefer should watch it. The thing about it is, like, not to be this person, but like, if you're gonna be doing WandaVision and Agatha All Along, there's not that many female represented MCU shows or movies. So it's like, yeah, why not give it a chance? Because it's also done by another woman, and it honestly, it's the same kind of jokes. It has the same jokes as Agatha All Along.
My guess is that Jack Schaefer watched it thinking like it could have been an Ally McBeal, but just for whatever reason, between the writing, the directing, and the studio management of that series, and just the VFX difficulties that they must have had, it just became really hard for them to stick to that formula in a way that like paid off other expectations of the show. No, like I think they wanted to do a season-long trial. The way that like Daredevil season 2 was at least half of it, the trial of Frank Castle.
I got the gist that they were just like, this is a fun show.
Yeah, they started.
This is a fun
became
show.
Like kind of almost a rom-com in very fun ways in the earlier episodes, but then that just came at odds with the other thing the show was doing as like an action show.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope she did. But they also have made it very clear, like a bunch of the actors on the show that were like, I didn't watch anything in the MCU.
No, yeah.
I just auditioned, and
it's a lot for people to watch if you're working on different shows.
If you're not into it, unless you're what's her name?
Iman Vellani watches everything.
Unless you're Iman Vellani.
Yeah.
She can't be the only person that's a nerd that is in Marvel, but it is insane that like they're like, yeah, no, I'm just
in interviews. She's the only one who seems to have watched every TV show and movie.
Insane. I will be so embarrassed if I ever make it into a Marvel thing, because I will literally be like, okay, I'm gonna write down everything I see.
I'm gonna just be wearing these very heavy glasses.
They would literally be like, do not let Jessica out of your sight. She will tell her fans everything. I'm gonna be like, you guys want me to get this prop book that I saw in the background? Like,
this right large hat with a GoPro in it.
Jessica, why are you wearing a witch's hat? Huh?
What, this hat?
This is for me.
Just cut to you running outside of Marvel Studios with a bunch of like artwork stuffed in your arms, like the guy in Ocean's 11, and then they just you throw it all in the air.
They're so good about those things. I have only been asked to audition for like 3 movies my entire life, and when they asked me, they were like, sign this. Here's your 2 pages. Like, they were like, you can't have any of this.
What movies have you watched?
No, not good ones. But the last one was
because you weren't in them.
They got the one girl from SNL, and I was like, damn. I was like, makes sense that they got her because she's very funny.
Big movie.
No, it was the. I'm not.
You don't have to say. You did sign an NDA.
No, because it already came out. No one saw it. The problem is, I think they found me through New Rockstars. They probably like watched our videos, because I was like, there is no other reason they would know what I look like, who I am. But they found my emails.
College humor stuff.
But that was so long ago that I'm like, they literally went to like 8-year-old videos and went,
like, you're also a known talent, Jess.
Yeah, but it was. But I think, but they probably watched this, and I'm kind of talking bad about it. It was the 3 boys from SNL, the ones.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the ones that make the sketches now. They came out with a movie.
Kyle Mooney and Beck Bennett and.
No, not those ones. The 3 kids.
Please Don't Destroy.
Yeah, Please
guys?
Don't Destroy. Yeah, the movie.
Oh,
they made a movie. They made a movie that no one really saw, and they make jokes about no one seeing it. So it's okay for me to be making these jokes, because they asked me to audition for one of the roles, and I did, and I was like, ooh yeah, I ate it. And then when the movie came out, the trailer came out, I saw who they casted in that part, and it was the black girl from SNL, not Ego, but the other one.
Punky.
Punky, yeah. It was her, and I went, this makes sense. I was like, not only is she very funny, but she's also your guys' close friend, so I don't know why you
work with her.
You already work with her.
Yeah.
You would have flew me to New York for like 3 weeks. I didn't tell New Rockstars yet, because I didn't know if I got the job.
We would have loved that.
Randomly, I'm like, well,
I'm gonna go be in a movie. Yeah.
But when they gave me the script, they were like, here's 2 pages. Do not show this to anyone. And like on the script, it has your name, so they're like, we know who did this. I don't even know, for Marvel, this is a secret. I would have had to like copy every text onto another script.
Right. Oh yeah, it would have been impossible.
I would have been like, okay.
You would have had to commit it to memory. Like, okay, write it down later.
I would have been a little. They know not to let me interview or audition for things now. At this point, they just got to do a quick Google search to be like, don't let that woman in here.
She'll bring it up on the sneak peek later.
I would. That's the problem. I know I would text you and be like, hey, there's this one thing that Kevin doesn't want anyone to know about this movie.
Well, this conversation has been great. I think we've covered where we think this finale will go. Is there any like hot take prediction of like I really think the finale will do this, or do you think like absolutely not, let's not get our expectations up for this?
I don't think it's good. I think it's good to do like a hot take that is so hot that it probably is never going to happen. Without that hot take, Gina wouldn't have been right about Robert Downey Jr. coming back. I'm like, that was a hot take. I would have never said that, and she did. And guess who showed up with a mask? Robert Downey Jr. My hottest take is that I do think that we're gonna get a post-credit scene that is wherever Rio's hovel is, like wherever Rio stays, where she lives, whatever's happening, and she is gonna be hanging out with someone that is from the Midnight Suns. Like I think that will be our like introduction, because it's also low stakes. I really hope it's not Blade. But like it's such low stakes for them to bring in like a Knight Rider or like a Man Thing.
Knight Rider. Mr. Feeney car.
Yeah. It's real low stakes to bring in Kit.
No, his name is Mr. Feeney car.
Would you? I would murder for Knight Rider to be in the MCU.
I like that calling it Mr. Feeney car requires you to be our age, but also know what Knight Rider is.
They know what Knight Rider is, or the gist. You don't need to watch an episode.
But to people who have watched Knight Rider just knew that actor is the guy from 1776, not the Mr. Feeney.
I did,
anyway.
But no, Man Thing, or just like what's her name also from Werewolf by Night.
Oh, Elsa Bloodstone.
Yeah, or that. Like, low stakes. We keep it in the supernatural world. I want to see who Rio's been hanging out with. That's not Agatha.
Yeah. I think that we will not see Elizabeth Olsen on this show, but we will get some wink or answer or context for what really happened to her and where we might see her next, or in what form we'll see her next.
I agree.
So I think that's going to be the most revelatory thing that happens in the finale, just because this show has at times said she's definitely dead, definitely dead. But then in episode 7, Agatha has this line about yes, no, maybe. I think they want us to just keep that in the back of our minds that there might be some kind of reveal there.
Yeah.
I think if they set up anything that is a cameo, I just don't feel strong on Mephisto showing up. I just feel like Jack Schaefer would fight that.
I hope not. But you telling me that he is showing up on the late night shows, there is nothing else that he would be in. There's no book. There's nothing else. Unless it's secret. This is the thing. SZA showed up on Hot Ones, and then 2 weeks later, a trailer dropped.
I think they just brought him up as a gag because he did the whole bit with Rudy Giuliani, and then so he was making fun of Trump.
Recently?
No, that was like years ago.
That was the
So
one.
I think Sacha Baron Cohen is just kind of a political satirist in a way. So I think that's the election is what brought him on.
It's weird timing.
I agree. It's very weird timing. I honestly feel like it's just as likely that Mephisto shows up in a post-credit scene as Vision showing up in a post-credit scene. It's only because Paul Bettany has worked in the past.
We're talking White Vision?
White Vision, getting some answer of where Vision is, and only because they have said, and only because, Jesus, sometimes people slam the door, and only because they have said that this show is part 2 of a trilogy, and then the Vision Quest show is going to be the third part of that trilogy.
Why is that going to be the third one?
That's just what Brad Winderbaum said. So I could imagine Brad Winderbaum putting together some post-credit scene pitch of like, well, we have to set up the Vision show. And then we'll get some answer about like, hey, stay tuned for Vision coming in 2026 or something like that.
That's so weird. Oh, it's not that weird. It's not that weird for Vision to be a part of this. I understand he's in WandaVision, but I'm like, this and WandaVision were so supernatural. And then Vision Quest is just going to be him learning to be a human robot.
Oh, for sure. Especially as this show has gone on. I don't know how this is going to be a thematic part 2 to a part 3 Vision show.
He's going to team up with Billy, and Billy's going to be like, no, this is how you're supposed to actually eat cereal.
I have loved the absence of technology on this show. Vision's out there like, I must be
Paul Bettany
in
said,
it.
"Let me in." Your idea with the post-credit scene, or not even just like getting a reveal of like Wanda, whether she's dead or not. It's not a disservice if the writers don't do this, but I'm like, oh, we have death in the room with us, and we still don't know. Yeah. Like, we have these questions of like, maybe, maybe not. And I'm like, this person probably genuinely knows. And if you write a show with death, like the Grim Reaper, and then a missing body that you think is dead, it's like, how are you going to not have them talk about it? So I want to see Rio talk about it. I want someone to ask Rio. I need people to stop asking Agatha, and I need people to stop asking Lilia. I'm like, ask the one person that would know if this person's actually dead or not. Yeah. And if she's coy about it, then I'll believe that she's alive. But if she also is like, no, I don't have her body, then I'd be like, oh, her body is somewhere. Yeah. She should be aware where it is, and it's somewhere. So
I'll be a little annoyed if in these finale episodes Agatha keeps doing this shtick of just like misleading vague talk. Like, I was surprised in her scenes with Billy in episode 7 that she was still like, I don't know. And I'm like, we're at episode 7, folks. Yeah. We need to start answering questions and not using screen time to still be deceptive. But going into the finale, if like episode 8 just kind of answers all questions from the Salem times, and we learn everything that happened with Nicholas Scratch and Rio and the Salemites, I'll be fine with that. I just don't need more like teases.
I don't think we're going to. I do think the writers are really good at exactly, which is so good for them. They're really good at timing exactly when we're irritated with something. Not in a bad way, but they're like, even the last episode, I was like, oh, Billy asked 3 questions that all of us in the audience have been asking this entire time. And I'm like, they knew that it was like finally time to address this. And I'm like, I think next episode, Billy's going to be like, enough of this coy bullshit. Like, stop it. I'm tired of it. Yeah. I think that'll finally like stop her.
Yeah, I think it's they are so good at hanging lanterns on things. Like, they aren't being driven by the fan base, but I think they just kind of understand the audience they're making a show for.
And so important, and so it's not easy. And I was like, I don't ever expect, and that's when I realized like it's such a good show, is I'm like, I think I've been plagued with so much television that I never give them like that benefit of the doubt. I'm like, oh yeah, it's hard to know what your audience wants. And I'm like, maybe it's actually not hard to know what your audience wants when you already like curated the season before it. Like, you curated every step of the way, so they know exactly what we want or what to do. And I'm like, oh, maybe other shows that don't do that are bad shows.
Or just like gonna struggle. Doesn't mean they're bad, but it means like they're just gonna be some misaligning. Expectations.
I never thought about it, and I do watch a lot of TV shows, like different everything TV shows. So I was like, oh, this one has a really different skill that the other ones I've watching do not have. I'll give it that.
All right, ahead on the New Rockstars channel this week. So today's Sunday. Tomorrow will be Jessica's breakdown of The Penguin episode 6. Very excited.
So such a fun show. Oswald Cobb. Cobby. Such a fun show. I will say in my breakdowns, you will notice that I am rooting for Sophia.
We all should be.
I am completely rooted for every step of everything she does now is a problem. Like, for me, I'm like, damn, this show's called The Penguin, and I am rooting for Sophia. I don't care how rich she is.
Yeah. I think it's interesting it's called The Penguin. I think maybe it should just be called like Gotham or something like that.
They couldn't. They were like, oh, people are going to think
need
it's
a character.
They're going to think it's that show again.
Oh, yeah, you can't. Oh, duh. There's a show called Gotham, but Gotham's something. Yeah, I don't know.
But The Penguin is still the point of view. I think episode 6 does give that away. That it's like, oh, yeah, I forget that he is the city. Like, he represents the city. He is one of the poor folk that live on the city under the heel of all the rich, and that is what Gotham has been built on since the start of the comics. Like, it's like, here's the rich and here's the poor. There's a lot more poor than there are rich, but the rich still own all this. Like, they can do whatever they want to the poor. And I'm like, oh yeah, Penguin is the poor. Like, he defends it, he represents it, and Sophia is still only like 2% of those people.
Yeah. On Wednesday night will be Jessica and me reacting to episodes 8 and 9 of Agatha. The final 2 episodes. We're going to do both episodes. It's going to come out a little bit later, obviously, because we have to watch both episodes, and our editors have to work on it. But thank you for your patience, and it's going to be a wild night. And then, let's see, Friday will be our Easter egg breakdown of both episodes, but then we'll have...
Friday?
Yeah, we'll see.
You could do... No, I don't know.
I don't know how it's going to work, because I'm going to have to work on Halloween.
You could do the first one, and then do the second one later, but if there's a post-credit scene, we gotta address the post-credit scene like by the weekend.
I don't know how we're gonna do
I know.
this
We'll
week.
figure it out. I forget that it's a 2-episode finale.
Oh my god. We'll have our after show on the break room on the Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So bring all your questions there. It's going to be me and Jessica and Zach and Brandon and John. I think Evan might be back.
I think Evan's back.
We'll see. It'll either be Evan or John or both. Or both. And then, and then starting November 9th will be the first episode of our Harry Potter rewatch, Sorcerer's Stone. And we have some, obviously some complicated feelings about that franchise, but we're going to talk about it in this, how this franchise really defined us as Easter egg hunting nerds for a certain generation, and that it's sometimes just your opinions change over something, but you still love it. And I think that's what we're going to be exploring in this series.
My biggest flex is I was never a Harry Potter person.
That's
I couldn't
okay.
read. I love the movies though, but I can't watch them now because they make me really sad. It's the only series that makes me nostalgic sad.
Yeah.
I watched the first one, I could not get past. As soon as McGonagall turns into a cat, or out of being a cat, which is the very beginning of the movie.
Yes.
I was like, turn it off. I said,
couldn't
turn
handle
it off. I don't even know. I can watch Twilight and just laugh, but Harry Potter, I get so sad watching. I'm like, this reminds me of being a baby again, and I'll never have that again. I don't know why. It's just Harry Potter. But I never read the books, so I was always a Twilight kid because I read those books, and I was filthy about it.
All right, let's each do a 60 seconds on what we're watching this week. Go. Or I can go.
You go first.
I'll go
don't
first.
know if I'm
I'm watching a lot of different stuff, but specifically my TikTok, for whatever reason, has been recommending me Wicked clips.
Ooh.
And I've, maybe it's just because I'm excited for the Wicked movie, and Wicked is playing in LA at the Pantages, so we'll be going to see that. And I've learned that there is a whole
Wait,
fandom.
you're seeing Wicked at the Pantages?
I will. I haven't gotten tickets yet, but it's
Wait,
playing.
when is it?
Through the end of the year.
I want to go see it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. We'll talk. But specifically, there's a whole fandom of people who have appreciated the different actresses who have played Elphaba, and a lot of people are pointing out Jessica Voss, F-O-S-K, V-O-S-K, is one of the best to do The Wizard and I, and she has a specific vocal control, and the way she says, and I'll stand there with the wizard, and the way she can control those two notes in Zerd is the best. So I've just been getting that over and over again, and look it up, and there's specifically the oh my god. There's people who know this know what I'm talking about. There was her final production of Defying Gravity on Broadway. There is a guy who's recording it on his phone, and the way she hits, tell them how I am defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity. And she hits those notes perfectly, and there's a man who goes, oh my God. And you can hear it, and now that's a cultural thing of the oh my god.
Oh my god.
So where people will listen to the cast recording, and if you don't hear the oh my god obviously, and they're like, oh, I missed the oh my god.
Oh my god.
So there's someone
that showed up on my TikTok that can guess each singer that's singing.
Yes, I've seen all his stuff.
He's really good.
So Shauna Bean, Eden Espinosa.
I think Rachel Zegler did one that was not good, but she's great singer otherwise. And they were like, is this a high schooler? The guy was like, what is this? And he went, oh my God, this is Rachel Zegler. And I was like, oh, maybe don't watch that one. But she does singing great in everything else she does, especially in Shrek the Musical.
That guy's ability to just hear it and identify it. I wish I was as good at anything as that guy is.
I wish I was with Wicked. There is so many times I listen to Wicked, and I'm like, I love listening to every different woman that has ever done it, period.
So you'll now, just us talking about it, you'll get these recommendations in your TikTok.
I get people, I get clips from the trailer that people haven't seen yet, and they just highlight it in the clips. And also costume building, because I'm trying to make a shiz outfit.
Oh, have you seen the youth production of Wicked that was probably
I think
illegal because it's still running on Broadway and you can't do Broadway junior versions of it? If a show is still running on Broadway, you cannot do it in local community theater because the original run is still happening.
I feel like I should have known this.
You have to wait till a show closes, and then you can purchase the rights to.
You know what's funny?
Do it in your local community.
I feel like I should have known this my entire life, but I just was always like, oh, the ones on Broadway are the Broadway ones, the big ones. I want to do Bat Boy. I want to do weird shit.
How would you do Wicked at a local community theater? Someone's going to get hoisted up on wires and get hurt if you try to do that.
And my school was no one's being lifted off the ground.
Yeah.
No one's being
Every high school
lifted
production of Peter Pan I've seen, those kids had bruises and were limping out of the theater afterwards.
No. We did again, I was talking to Brandon about this. We did the Putman spelling bee. That's
a perfect one to do for high school.
The only crappy thing is like 6 people, you know.
Oh, it's small
my
cast,
friend
yeah.
my friend was in school during Shrek the Musical, and I was like, that sucks because there's only 3 people, and I was like, so everyone else is just ensemble, and they were like, yeah, ensemble's perfect and great, and we need ensemble to do anything, but it also just sucks when you're like a child and you're like, I want to play like a main character too sometimes, and there's only 3 every time. Every time there's only 3.
You gotta do big cast. You gotta do your guys and dolls.
You gotta do everything. I think that's why everyone under the goddamn sun does the damn Yankees.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I hate damn Yankees at
Who's
this
got
point.
the pain when they do the mountain? That's a great one.
I hate damn Yankees now because we did it so much in high school. We did it twice in high school, and then the opposing school did it twice too. So we had to go see them do it.
Ooh, fight.
We were better.
Of course you were.
We were better. I will say I don't have a what we're watching, so I'm gonna just finish this. I'm gonna finish on this. Capitol High School in Olympia, Washington. Keep that in mind. That's where I went to school. There was no black kids like around my area. It was usually just me and like 3 other kids, but I loved musical theater. And that theater teacher would try to become my best friend because they wanted to do a certain player musical that would require a black person in it. And I was also playing sports, so I could not do any musicals in spring. And that was when we did the musicals, was in spring. And he'd be like, Jessica, please. Like, he would like invite me to like, he'd be like, do you want to like, hey, you should have lunch with us in the theater room. Like, come hang out with us. He would have like pizza and all this food. And he'd be like, so you want to look at the script?
What play was he trying to do?
It was a very specific play, and I cannot remember the name of it. I've never seen it anywhere else. But the black girl was like an angel, but she was also just like on the street, like hanging out with people all the time and like guiding them. But it was like specifically a black girl angel. And then there was also Little Shop of Horrors, and he refused to not have like anyone that could sing at those octaves. And it was me and this other black girl that could. And she did audition, or she was like, I'll do it, but I was like, I can't. I have track and field. And he was like, what if you just missed sophomore year of track and field?
I know there's been a lot of productions of Little Shop of Horrors, probably most of them in high schools, where they get the Motown singers and it's not black girls because they just don't have them. But it's like they kind of should be.
Yeah, or just like people that can sing like that well. And I remember
supposed to be like the Crystals, you know?
Oh my God, that's why we would never do Dream Girls. God forbid we do Dream Girls. But no, he would try to give me, and I regret it completely only because I'm like, I would have had so much more fun doing musicals like that instead of doing fucking track and field. I was throwing cannonballs. I was throwing a discus.
Hey, that's a great way to spend your time, too.
I was mad.
The kind of drama and trauma that doing high school theater leaves you with isn't always worth it at the end of the day.
Oh, my God. Those poor kids, when they were... SNL made a sketch about it. When they would post the names...
Oh, you're thinking that? I was thinking the
is it the
Legally Blonde, the musical?
Oh my God,
sketch. That's also really good because all those SNL actors were theater kids.
They were all theater kids. I still did stage. I did like the stage plays, but I didn't get to do that many. I got to only do Grease and Hello Dolly.
Those are good ones.
I love Hello Dolly, but we all do Hello Dolly too many times. Everybody does it.
My high school theater teacher was like, we're only going to do different weird ones that they don't do all the time. And I was
would
like,
love that.
I would have loved to have done
Let's
Grease.
Switch schools.
Yeah.
No, let's switch schools. When we did that musical Bat Boy, it's literally about a man that's half human, half bat.
That sounds
And
cool.
he was like, my mother was a scientist, and she made love to my dad who was a bat. And I was like, this is what I want to see. I was like, this is what I want to see. I was like, give me more of this.
We did Bye Bye Birdie my freshman year, which was like the most normal one. And then we did Lil Abner, which is like a big cast, a good one for a big cast. And we did Pippin, which is
Pippin.
awesome.
I love Pippin.
Best vocals ever. Stephen Schwartz, who also did Wicked. And I loved it, but it's a very weird thing to tell like 16-year-olds. Like, you have to be like kind of erotic in your dancing. And I'm like, I don't know what that means yet. And then we did Mystery of Edwin Drood my senior year, which is a very odd one, but it's like a fun murder mystery clue.
We
did
Spring Awakening our
What?
senior year. And
what?
Because the kids got to vote. And
Of course.
We did a
you
weird
put it
thing.
up to the kids. They're going to be like, we want to do the ones where we fuck.
I remember being like, why are we allowing the kids to vote? Because we're going to do weird. And yeah, theater kids are so fucking horny. They're disgusting.
They needed
They're filthy.
the
They're
teachers
disgusting.
to come in and put end to that.
And we did Spring Awakening, and then I remember like we did the matinee for the students, and the students were like, "Whoa,
theater can be this."
Yeah, they were like, "I should have done."
And then you say theater is normally that. It normally is just horny writers
kids
who are just putting weird stuff.
They're
on
being
stage.
weird as hell.
All right, we'll leave it there for this episode of Sneak Peek Jess. It was wonderful to have this chat with you. I'm super excited for the finale, but I've enjoyed this ride of Agatha all along.
Yeah, I hope it's a musical episode.
I hope so too.
Another one.
Subscribe to all 3 channels of the New Rockstars Network. We're both wearing shirts that you can get at New Rockstars merch store, nerdright.shop. This is our Ralph Boner Pitch a Tent shirt. Jessica's wearing a Barbie
Just a
size.
classic pink New Rockstars Barbie shirt.
Grab that at nerdright.shop. Follow Jessica at Lulu_Clemons. Follow me at EA Voss. Big thanks to all of our editors who helped put this one together, and to Dashiell, our studio tech, who's cutting this or live switching right now. And thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.